Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Planes, Trains, and Comic Books channel. My name's Matt, and today we're going to review Crying Freeman Volume 1. And before we get into that, if you guys wouldn't mind sharing, subscribing, commenting down below, all that stuff really helps me out, and it lets me know what you guys want to see. So with that being said, let's get straight into it. So Crying Freeman is a manga from the mid-'80s. It's kind of like an old school manga that's, it was coming out around the same time as like Fists of North Star, which I did a review of, and even like the early volumes of Berserk. This is also in line with those, like an 18 plus manga. It is definitely for adults, mostly for violence, but there's also some sex or nudity in it. But the general premise of this book is there is a assassin that works for the Chinese mafia. The mafia's name is the 108 Dragons, and he is like the top assassin of all time. And when he kills someone, his like signature thing that he does is he cries. And so we don't know why, but his eyes always flow tears after he kills someone. Through this whole thing, you kind of figure out, his history and all that stuff and whatnot. So this first two volumes is a really good setup because this one is actually like an omnibus, I guess. The ones that Dark Horse started releasing in 2006. So this one's actually like volumes 1 and 2 of the smaller tankobons. The first volume is basically the like just setup of who he is as an assassin, and then the second volume is how he became an assassin. So it's a pretty good like introduction of the character and the whole premise of the book. So for the story, we get introduced right away to the main female protagonist. Her name is Imu Hino, and she is just like a regular woman. She's like a painter who is about town, and she just happens to see Freeman assassinate someone in like a park, and she's like painting in the park. She just happens to run into this assassination happening, and she sees him and he's crying, and she's like, what the heck, who is this beautiful crying man or whatever? And how did he kill someone? And I should say Freeman, who is like, he's like super pretty boy face, but also built like like a bodybuilder or whatever. So he's super hot or whatever. And then also obviously he's got a sensitive side if he's crying. So this book is very much like this dude's like the full package to like a lady, I guess, is like what they were going for when they wrote this. I told my wife, I was like, it's basically like James Bond if he wasn't a misogynist, if he just like was really good at being an assassin and the girls kind of threw themselves at him because they couldn't resist him. In that way, it's kind of more like Austin Powers or where the women just need to be with him or whatever. So except he looks way better than Austin Powers. So she sees this assassination happen, and it starts off with her kind of telling in her diary like, well, I'm about to die. I'm 29 and I'm still a virgin. This kind of sucks. I've never been married or anything. And like she's going to die because she saw an assassination, and she's like a witness. So she knows, whoever ordered the assassination is going to have me killed. She actually talks to Freeman in the park, the assassin. He asks her what her name was. She tells him. And then she asks him, what's your name? And he says, my name is Yo. So she knows his first name is Yo, and that's like all she's got. So she actually like does like a painting of him with his gun and him crying from the park when she saw him. And like, so that's in her house, and then she knows his name is Yo. He doesn't come for her right away because basically he needs to finish his assassination of who he really came there for, which is the crime lord Shudo Shimazaki, who is, so this is in Japan, I should say that. He works for a Chinese mafia gang named the 108 Dragons, who are trying to get into Japan and like infiltrate their organized crime, like their Yakuza. And so the Yakuza leader in Japan, who is Shudo Shimazaki, he actually like meets with the police and is like, look, let's work together. We don't need these bad criminals. You got, yes, I am a criminal, but I'm a Japanese criminal and I care about Japan. Whereas these Chinese criminals, they don't care about Japan at all. They're just trying to use us. So if we work together, it'll be good for Japan. So he does this speech to the police department, and they're kind of like surprised that they're going to go along with this because it is the organized crime for them. But they're like, yeah, it makes sense. We're going to help out this crime lord to stop the Chinese crime lords from coming in. And as he's leaving, Yo comes out of nowhere and like shoots him and kills a bunch of people with him. And then he runs away. And as he's running away, He actually had a mask on, but it just happened that is where Emu worked, and she sees him in the mask and just sees that he's crying, and she says, "Yo," and so the Yakuza and the police both hear her identify him. Now the police want her so that they can question her and identify him, so they can bring him up on charges, and the Yakuza now want to kidnap her and beat it out of her. Who is this guy? Because he just killed their boss. So then she goes back to her home, and turns out that Yo is waiting there, and she's like, "You're okay. You can kill me, but basically, I just asked for one thing. You got to make love to me first, because I've never been married. I'm still a virgin, and if I'm gonna die, I want to have sex with someone." So he's like, if I must, basically. And so he has sex with her, and then after they have sex, the Yakuza break in, because they're not waiting around like the cops, because the cops are outside, but they can't, they don't want to break the law. They can't. They have to either have evidence against her, or she has to willingly go to the police to give a statement. So they're just waiting outside trying to get her to give a statement, whereas the Yakuza just break in because they don't care. So the Yakuza breaks in and he saves her from the Yakuza. They do end up shooting her, and she's kind of not mortally wounded, but she does get hurt a little bit. But she's just so happy and in love that he was there to protect her, and that I don't know, she's in love with him now, and also he's in love with her, because when when she's almost dying in his arms, he's like, "I could kill her right now," and he puts a gun to her head, and he can't do it. He can't kill her. So he's actually fallen for her as well. That's the kind of tension at the beginning of this is the first time he's ever fallen for a woman. It's not the other way around. Usually he's used to women, falling for him, or him being able to use his charms to do whatever he needs to get done with them, as far as if he needs to use them to get to someone to assassinate them, or take them out themselves. But this is the first time he's actually been affected by a woman like that. So he's like, okay, you know what? What's going to happen is we're going to get her better in the hospital. They have to figure out a way to sneak her out, and then he's going to sneak her back to his little house in the middle of nowhere on the countryside. So turns out that he's actually a potter, a world famous potter. That's his cover, is he's actually like a world famous pottery maker who is an artist and is well known for his potteries. And then that's where we get the origin. So that kind of whole beginning is with the Yakuza and everything. That's the first volume. So that's pretty much all action. There's a little bit of sex in it and stuff, but the second volume is where we learn how he got involved in this and how he became the assassin he is now. So his origin is a little weird. I'm not going to lie. I was kind of okay, I guess I'll go with this. It's not the weirdest origin I've ever seen, but it's definitely not a conventional one. But basically, he always started out as this, or he originally started out as this potter who's named Yo Hinomura. And so Yo was going around to New York and other places doing gallery shows of his pottery. And while he was there, someone from the Italian mob happened to hide negatives of film in one of his potteries of I believe it was the mafia, the Italian mafia, torturing one of the 108 dragon peoples. So he finds it in one of his potteries, and he looks at it, he develops it, and he sees what the photos are. And right away, I guess the mafia knows where the film was and who had it. So they just offer him hey, we will give you, $30,000 for the film, and you just shut the fuck up and go away. And he's like, no, I must send these to the police. So he does that. And because he does that, he is actually an asset now to the Chinese mafia. There was a war going on already in the background between the Italian mafia and the Chinese mafia, and Yo just gets caught in the middle of it. And basically, the Chinese mafia sends an old man to capture Yo at the airport. They knock him down, and then the old man puts an acupuncture in the back of his neck, which makes it so he can't move or anything. They throw him in the car, and then they take him back, and basically the old man programs him to be an assassin using acupuncture and hypnotic suggestion. So that's the weird part I was talking about is he like is able to make him do whatever he wants by doing acupuncture in the back of his neck. And then he's like, he puts a needle in and then he says like some code words. And then Yo is released later on. And he's like, that's really weird. Like, luckily I'm not dead. But then he gets a phone call and the old man says the words that were programmed into his head. And all of a sudden he's an assassin forever. I don't know if they were planning on him being like a perfect assassin like he is, like he becomes, but basically he is programmed to go kill the Italian guys who wanted the photographs from him. So he just goes to a restaurant, pretends to be like, the waiter or whatever, and then like ends up killing him. It's not as smooth as some of his other kills, but he gets it done. And then because like right now he's not even trained, it's just like him doing this. So it's him with no training killing, with this knife or whatever. And so he gets the job done. But then they're like, wow, you did such a great job. Like, we think you can be like our great assassin or whatever. So they send him to China to become codename Freeman. And they even say like, your code name will be Freeman because you're a man who wants to be free and you can't. And that's actually why he cries every time he kills someone, is because the hypnotic suggestion like breaks or whatever, that programming breaks once he finishes his mission. And then he feels really bad and he cries because he just had to murder someone and he didn't want to kill him. And so, yeah, it's like a weird, sad thing that he has to do every time he kills someone. So then he's sent to China to train under an old woman named Fa Feng Ling. And Ling is actually like the wife of the 108 Dragons Mafia. And so I think she's actually in charge of them because I think her husband is dead now, but she's like 99. And she is also an assassin herself. So she trains him to be an assassin, which he does. He, does all the training and everything. And at the end of it, he gets a dragon tattoo put on him. And it looks fucking badass, like a giant body dragon tattoo. This is where she kind of explains the whole woman aspect of his training as well. She says he is the ultimate assassin because he is perfectly deadly and he can win over any woman with his charms. So no woman can resist him, and not like in a weird, creepy way. Like, he's not trying to get women to sleep with him. They just want to. So it, like I said, it's kind of like Austin Powers, less like James Bond. This is kind of shown in a weird way where like the woman who was getting him his tattoos was compromised by another mafia group, and she gets paid to poison his tattoo needles as she's working on him. And she's the old woman is told like, hey, we just heard she's been paid off, she's gonna poison him. And the old woman's like, no, she won't be poisoning him. And they're like, what do you mean? And they're like, she will not be able to. And it's just like him naked on the bed, and she's about to like stab him with the poison needles, and she's like, I can't. And then she's like looking at him, and she sees that like great butt of his. Then the next shot is him flipped over, her on top of him, like going at it. So it's like basically she can't do it. She just can't resist him. She can't kill him or anything because he's so amazingly good looking and his charms are so amazing. So so I thought that was a fairly funny thing to be part of his powers or whatever, but that's not a common thing for an assassin, I guess, because she says you're like the ultimate assassin, as you can kill people with no problem, and women want you, and you can charm any woman you want. So that is basically the first two volumes of this. There's some obviously other storyline and stuff in there, but I'm not going to spoil everything in it. But this is just like the introduction to who the character is and why you'd want to read it. I think it's a really fun book. Yes, there's definitely adult scenes in it and stuff, but it's kind of like just like a rated R movie, basically. Like it's got adult themes and stuff. There's very super action and everything, but it feels like an 80s or 70s kind of action movie where there's an assassin, and then of course there's ladies who are throwing themselves at this guy or whatever. And I feel like I said, it's more like a James Bond that's rated R. I really liked it. I'm going to continue reading this. So there's only like 7 of these omnibus volumes, so we'll see what the full story is. Maybe I'll do like a full review of the whole series after I'm done. But yeah, it definitely starts off strong, and I liked it a lot. So I'm going to give this volume itself, I'm going to give this a 4. Once it got to the middle of his origin, I felt like, oh yeah, this is like moving along, and we're like getting all this good backstory on him and why he is the way he is. Why does he cry? Why do the women all of a sudden fall in love with him no matter what? Like, I thought it was weird at the beginning how Emu, like, just she sees him and she's like, I love him. Like, like I want him to be my first and my last man or whatever. And so obviously it's because of his charms, but the reason why she's different is because he actually fell in love with her that time as well. So, but yeah, like I said, I'm gonna give this one a 4 out of 5. It was a good time. And definitely check this one out. It might be fly under the radar for some people because it's one of the older mangas, but I definitely liked it. And you can get it on like Comixology for fairly cheap. And I don't know if it's still in print like in actual books, but it's definitely available digitally. So check that one out, and we will see you guys on the next one.